The night her father shut the door in her face, the sound did not echo through the street, it shattered inside her chest. Her suitcase lay open on the pavement, clothes spilling out like secrets no one wanted to keep. The rain soaked her hair, her hands trembled, and the porch light that once felt warm now burned like judgment. She stood there, rejected not for a crime, not for a mistake, but for choosing a life her family did not approve of. In that moment, she was no longer a daughter. She was a disappointment. And she had nowhere to go. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to heal broken hearts, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, Lonely Dad Strong Heart. Your support keeps these stories alive. Her name was Aisha, and until that night, she had lived her entire life trying to make everyone proud. She studied hard, obeyed quietly, sacrificed her own dreams to fit the shape her family designed for her. But when she told them she wanted to marry a widowed man with a small child, everything changed. In their eyes, she was throwing her life away. They called her foolish. They said she deserved better. They told her no respectable family would accept such a decision. When she refused to back down, they chose pride over love. The man they rejected was Imran, a single father who carried exhaustion in his eyes and guilt in his heart. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife in a sudden illness. Since then, he had been both mother and father to his 5-year-old daughter, Hira. His days began before sunrise and ended long after midnight. He worked at a small repair shop, came home to cook simple meals, washed tiny clothes with calloused hands, and read bedtime stories even when sleep begged him to surrender. He loved his daughter fiercely, but grief and responsibility had carved deep lines into his face. Aisha had met Imran at a community charity event. She noticed how he tied Hira's shoelaces with patience, how he listened carefully when she spoke, how his voice softened when he said her name. There was no show in his kindness. It was quiet, steady, and real. Hira, shy at first, had clung to her father's leg, peeking at Aisha with wide, uncertain eyes. That single glance had stirred something deep inside her, not pity, not sympathy, but a powerful sense of purpose. When Aisha told her parents she wanted to marry him, they reacted as if she had chosen poverty and shame. They could not understand why a young woman with options would willingly step into a life already heavy with responsibility. But Aisha saw something they did not. She saw a man trying his best. She saw a little girl who still slept with her mother's scarf under her pillow. She saw a family broken not by choice but by tragedy. After that night in the rain, Aisha did not go back. She married Imran in a simple ceremony with only a few witnesses. No music from her side. No blessings from her parents. Just a promise, fragile but sincere, to build something beautiful from the ruins. The first months were harder than she imagined. Hira did not call her mother. She did not even call her by name. She simply watched her. At dinner, she would move her plate slightly away. At bedtime, she would ask for her father instead. Aisha understood. Love could not be forced. Trust had to grow. There were nights Aisha cried silently in the kitchen, her tears falling into the sink so no one would hear. She missed her mother's voice. She missed the comfort of belonging somewhere without having to earn it. Sometimes she wondered if her family was right. Maybe she had stepped into a life too complicated for her heart. But every morning, she tried again. She learned Hira's favorite breakfast. She braided her hair for school, even when her fingers fumbled. She attended parent-teacher meetings alone when Imran was stuck at work. Slowly, almost invisibly, the distance began to shrink. One afternoon, when Aisha slipped on a wet floor and scraped her hand, Hira ran to her with a small bandage and pressed it gently against her skin. It was the first time she touched her without hesitation. That small gesture felt bigger than any wedding celebration Aisha never had. Imran noticed the changes too. The house, once heavy with silence, began to feel lighter. There was laughter during dinner. There were drawings on the refrigerator that now included 3 stick figures instead of 2. For the first time since his wife's passing, Imran allowed himself to breathe without guilt. Yet challenges did not disappear. Financial pressure mounted when the repair shop struggled. Bills stacked on the table like silent threats. Imran started working longer hours, returning home with shoulders slumped and eyes tired. One night, he confessed that he felt he had ruined Aisha's life. He believed she deserved comfort, not constant struggle. Aisha looked around their small apartment, at the worn sofa, the chipped cups, the little girl sleeping peacefully in the next room, and felt something stronger than regret. She felt pride. She told him that she did not marry comfort. She married a heart. Determined to help, she began baking homemade snacks and selling them in the neighborhood. At first, sales were slow. Some people whispered about her, the girl who had been rejected by her own family. But her kindness was persistent. She gave extra pieces to children who could not pay. She smiled at customers who doubted her. Word slowly spread, not about her past, but about her generosity. Within a year, her small effort grew into a modest home-based catering service. The extra income eased their burdens. More importantly, it restored Imran's confidence. He no longer felt alone in carrying the weight of survival. The true transformation, however, was not financial. It was emotional. Hira, who once resisted her, began waiting at the window every afternoon for Aisha to return from deliveries. She started sharing school secrets. She laughed freely. And one evening, after a nightmare woke her, she ran not to her father's room, but to Aisha's. Half asleep and trembling, she whispered a single word that froze time, Ami. Aisha held her tightly, tears soaking into Hira's hair. In that quiet darkness, every sacrifice, every insult, every lonely night became worth it. Years passed. The repair shop stabilized. The catering business flourished. Their apartment walls filled with photographs, birthdays, school awards, small vacations to nearby parks. The absence that once defined their home had been replaced with presence. Then came the unexpected moment that none of them saw coming. One afternoon, Aisha received a call. Her mother was ill, serious enough to swallow pride. She hesitated before visiting the house she once called home. The same door stood there, but it looked smaller somehow. When her father opened it, his face carried the weight of time and regret. No dramatic apologies were spoken. No tears fell instantly. But there was a shift, subtle and undeniable. He saw not a rebellious daughter, but a woman who had built something meaningful from rejection. Over the following weeks, Aisha visited regularly, sometimes bringing Hira along. The little girl's innocent laughter softened old resentments. Her parents watched as Imran respectfully helped with errands and repairs, never once mentioning the past. Slowly, the family that had broken apart began stitching itself back together. Forgiveness did not erase pain, but it created space for healing. On the 10th anniversary of their marriage, Imran organized a small gathering. Nothing extravagant, just close friends, neighbors, and, this time, her parents. As Aisha looked around the room, she realized how far they had come. From a rain-soaked pavement to a house filled with warmth. From rejection to reconciliation. From loneliness to love. Imran stood beside her, no longer the exhausted widower drowning in responsibility, but a man renewed by partnership. Hira, now taller and confident, proudly introduced Aisha as her mother to everyone she met. Aisha once thought losing her family was the end of her story. She did not know it was the beginning of a greater one. She had stepped into a broken home and discovered that broken did not mean hopeless. It meant waiting to be rebuilt. Her journey was not about rescuing a single dad. It was about choosing compassion over comfort. It was about believing that love is not measured by ease, but by endurance. She had not just changed Imran's life. She had changed her own. She had transformed rejection into purpose. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Lonely Dad's Strong Heart. Stories like this remind us that second chances are real. And before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Comment the word hope if you believe love can rebuild what life tries to break. Because somewhere out there, someone is standing in the rain tonight, feeling unwanted and alone. Maybe they need to hear that rejection is not the final chapter. Maybe they need to know that the door that closes behind them might lead to a home they never imagined. Aisha's life proved one simple truth. Sometimes the family you choose becomes the miracle that saves you. And sometimes, the heart that once felt abandoned becomes strong enough to shelter others forever.